Hi there. House of the Dragon Season 2 was meant to end with the Battle of the Gullet, one of the biggest naval battles in history, and which involves half a dozen dragons. But at the last minute, the studio cut their episode count. So the 8th and final episode of Season 2 was literally written as script 8 out of a finished 10, thus pushing the Battle of the Gullet back to the Season 3 premiere. So, back in June, when filming on Season 3 started up, we actually began to get quite a few spy photos from the Battle of the Gullet, which we are finally going to get. Now, some context first. This is a catch-up video because Season 3 exterior filming began on June 10th. And for the rest of that month, they were filming in Wales, mostly at the same locations as in Season 2. And it took us a while to gather and sort through all the spy photos after they wrapped at the end of the month, at the end of June. Then, just as I was going to start reporting on it, okay, they're done, we can cross-reference, I'll start reporting on it, by mid-July, we got these much bigger leaks that really stood out immediately from filming in Southeast England, in Surrey, where we got our first spy photos of Daeron the Daring, and that Daemon was meeting him at his army camp as an envoy. So I had to drop what I was doing to report on those bigger leaks, because they're bigger changes. Now that I have my head relatively above water, keeping pace with the Surrey photo leaks, now, end of July, I can start going over, this is the Wales filming, that there was a month of filming in Wales. Those spy photos from June in Wales basically fall into 4 categories, 4 topics. So I'm covering them in 4 different report videos. This is part 1 of a set of 4 videos, but they're not interrelated. You can watch them in any order. This just happens to be the first one. I'm going in the chronological order that they appear in the story. We know the Gullet is in the season premiere. So here we are. Also, they're not done filming the Gullet. I mean, usually the heaviest action scenes they save for the end of a filming shoot. We know they're going through October, on the logic that if Kit Harington breaks his foot, as he did in Season 2, it won't ruin all of his other scenes. He actually broke his foot when he was out and about in town, not in a stunt, unfortunately, but that we can tell from every season that they usually film all the big stunt work absolutely last, so it won't wreck a month worth of filming where they could just be walking around without a crutch. So we have only recently, the past few days, started seeing more activity at the backlot, the Leavesden Studios backlot, where they built these full prop ships, where they're doing other stuff. We might get spy footage out of that, we might not, but this is everything we got from the location shoots in Wales. Now, it's weird how people get angry, yelled the week the finale came out, and I don't know, did people, reactor channels, in the past full year realize what happened? I don't know, because it's weird how people have the energy to go on and yell on social media or yell in a YouTube channel or comments, but not to Google, this is what really happened, because we've known what happened since the month it did. At least half a year now, we know the staff have openly admitted the Battle of the Gullet was originally planned as the big battle climax, that it was beginning of 2025 that director Alan Taylor openly admitted, I was originally hired back from the old Game of Thrones days to do the Battle of the Gullet as episode 9 of a 10-episode season 2. When it got cut at the last minute, I got reshuffled to do Battle of Rook's Rest in episode 4. So this isn't theory, that this is all admitted that was not their plan. And it's weird how people need a villain, but for some reason the studio head isn't worth being a villain, that they'd rather blame Ryan Condal for Zaslav ridiculously cutting episodes at the last minute, which is like objectively not Condal's fault. I've seen people actually going just one line, oh, well, he should have been able to rewrite it into an 8-episode season with Gullet at the end. The entire point, it was a last-minute cut before a writer's strike. They could not realistically rewrite it into an 8-episode format. When's the last time you wrote an episode? Scripting takes months. But it's weird, I still see, because it's a soundbite, you can easily say it as a one-burst comment, be so weird if you cornered one of the online trolls like that in real life. If they asked a Q&A at a panel, you had them on the spot and went, oh, how long do you think it takes to rewrite a season? Because it falls apart upon more than 2 seconds of analysis. So we know all of that. That's all been proven. It was a big problem, but at least we're getting the Battle of the Gullet now. And I hope the people who are upset will be won back by that. Good news is they are not condensing Season 3, by the way. That from what we can tell, we think they're ending earlier, but there's a better stopping point, because now that the war is in full swing, as opposed to Season 2, which didn't have a stopping point, there's more than one thing that could have been a stopping point for Season 3. Instead of the Dragon Pit, which I think might have been intended as the original ending to Season 3, they're ending with Battle of Tumbleton, which is also a very good stopping point. It ends on a cliffhanger. But in a good way, that this feels like an ending. But just from the pace and the way they're doing it, we don't think that they're condensing Season 3. They kicked the can. They punted to, it's a Season 4 problem. Our hope being that they get an episode extension on Season 4, or functionally 2 smaller seasons, 4 and 5, we don't know, but I'm not worried about condensing Season 3. That's a Season 4 problem for now. But we're getting the Battle of the Gullet, and it's good. It's a premiere, because how else could it be anything else? But for people who, watch the first episode then quit, wow, there better be the big battle that we were promised, or I'm leaving, who do not look at online news. We're getting the Battle of the Gullet in the first episode. It'll be a major set piece that hopefully people will be talking about. And now the good news is, Alan Taylor isn't coming back for Season 3, but he's handing over the reins as director in charge of big battle episodes to Lonnie Perister, who directed The Red Sowing, episode 7 of last year, where the dragon seeds are all trying to claim dragons. Has got that great 6-minute one take, and he said, I'm openly inspired by Jurassic Park, and have stuff going on in the background to show that it's a full set. I've talked about this in reviews, that Perister really knew what he was doing. And going through the behind-the-scenes stuff, he impressed me even more. So Perister is directing Battle of the Gullet. However, while Alan Taylor isn't coming back, because he said, I didn't want to spend another half year away from my family, it was a long shoot, he did lend Perister his cinematographer, P.J. Dillon. That as a pair, Taylor and Dillon, they're veterans from Game of Thrones Season 1. But even though Taylor won't come back, that Dillon has had 2 years in advance to think out the cinematography of what the Battle of the Gullet will look like. So it does have the originally intended cinematographer for it. So that'll work out that they paired him, Dillon, with Perister. There was nothing that I personally thought was particularly shocking, a shocking change in the month's worth of spy photos we got for the Battle of the Gullet stuff in Wales, on beaches in Wales. That if it was really shocking, it would have rushed out breaking news, they made this giant change. But it's still interesting, and just, it's nice to cycle through the footage to let people know, yes, we are getting the Gullet, because so many people were upset about it. And not just for the Gullet, but for other things in Wales. There's like a refinement here or a refinement there. I'm like, well, that's a tiny change. I'm fine with it. You'll see that in the other reports. Case in point, though, the one real change, and it's a minor change to the Battle of the Gullet, is from the spy photos, we can see that Bela is present. And she probably will be taking part in it on her dragon Moondancer, which she didn't in the book, but it makes complete sense that she would in the TV show because she's been aged up. Both her and her dragon, that at this point in the book, Bela is there, and she has Moondancer, but it's not big enough to fly yet. That it's only big enough to fly near the end of the war. So no one questions that she doesn't take part in the battle, versus in the TV show, it's small. You can tell, like, Vagar could kill it in one bite like it ate Arax, but it's still useful as a scout and everything, so she can fly it around. And I think audiences would be confused going, there's an enemy fleet literally attacking Bela's home island that she is on right now with Moondancer, who we have seen flying around threatening Kristen Cole before. It would be weird if Moondancer didn't take part in the battle, so I'm fine with that. within the TV universe, ripple effects, it makes sense. When you age up characters, this happens. I don't even consider this really a change. It's just, oh yeah, I was there too, because it's not just one or two dragons. It's they send all the dragons, because the Triarchy didn't know they had just finished getting all these new dragon riders. And it turns the tide. Even then, it's still a bloodbath, though. Now, these spy photos of all the wreckage and them on the beach, this is from Llanthwin Beach, which is the location in Wales where they filmed scenes on the beaches of Dragonstone and Driftmark last year. This is where Seasmoke starts chasing after Adam. So it makes sense that they'd return here to film. This is the stand-in for the beaches of Driftmark and Dragonstone. This is where wreckage from the nearby sea battle would be washing up. It's no surprise there. And we see bits of Velaryon and Triarchy ships. We have seen prop dummies in Velaryon costumes and Triarchy costumes, so it makes sense all this would be washing up. We also see that Corlys Velaryon's ship gets battle damaged, that the prow, carved to look like his wife Rhaenys, is snapped off and there's wreckage there. That doesn't indicate a major change. You know, Corlys survives. We see him in other spy photos. Just his ship takes a lot of battle damage in this grueling naval confrontation. No surprise there. Now, the photos I've been showing you are mostly from the start of June. But then also at the end of June, we got better spy photos of the specific cast members on the same beach. They returned to it. That you can see Corlys with both of his bastard sons for the first time. He was never on screen with both of them at once, Alan and Adam. And on top of it, that Baela is there too. At the start of June, we saw Baela with Corlys, we saw like Adam off somewhere else, that there's going to be a point where all four of them are on camera at the same time. That apparently they're walking around the aftermath of the battle, surveying the damage, that kind of thing. Very briefly, actor Steve Toussaint has said that a major subplot for the Velaryons in Season 3 will be, now that he's acknowledged his bastard sons, that will lead to friction and succession conflict, because Baela is the rightful legitimate heir. They're legitimized bastards, and what are they going to do with that? Which is great. It's an issue that comes up logically, and it gives the Velaryons more to do. That a problem was I felt Corlys was a little underused last year, not enough that I was angry, because I know he does more this season. So I was looking forward to it. Not just the Gullet, but the whole, and this is in the book, the back and forth of, succession conflicts are a big part of this. So all of them will have all these intense discussion scenes because of that. So optimism for if you felt Corlys was underused. He's going to be arguing with them over, okay, we had this battle, we have a succession opening, what are we going to do? I actually kind of want Alan to be my heir, and the back and forth of that. One last thing that we saw in early June, which I wasn't sure how to incorporate into this at first because, well, I can't use video clips of spy footage because I don't want to get a YouTube copyright strike. And when I made these screenshots of it here, because everyone's running around in motion, it got blurry as a still image. So you'll have to trust my description of it. I have seen the video. It's out there on social media. We've all seen it. A lot clearer. That there's multiple spy videos of big action scenes where Triarchy Corsairs, I mean a dozen or two at a time, were charging up through the surf onto the beach at Driftmark, and then fighting Velaryon soldiers. Now remember, Fire and Blood is just an in-universe history book. It's an outline, so it describes this part of the battle in one sentence. Some of the Corsair ships managed to get through to the island, and they devastated Spicetown. That's really quick, and I thought they just have some Triarchy stunt actors running around on the docks set that they already had for Season 2. They didn't need to go to this level of effort. It actually looks like they're expanding it, that my mental image is almost this Saving Private Ryan style beach landing where under Dragonfire there's Corsair landing ships, and they said the dragons took out 2 out of every 3 ships, but every one that does manage to actually get to the beach, a lot of men pour out and do a lot of damage because most of the Velaryons' forces are concentrated on their ships, that their hulls are their walls, but it's an open port. It's not like Dragonstone where it's a fortress. So they seem to have significantly expanded the beach fighting. It spills over onto the beach a lot more, which is in the book, but it's just described in broad terms. And I could see why they'd want to do that, because having an involved big action scene on a wooden prop ship, stunt ship, is difficult at best, dangerous at worst. Because it's cramped conditions, you have all these stuntmen. When they had that Iron Fleet battle at the start of Game of Thrones Season 7, that was a debacle behind the scenes. I mean, even worse in Season 8, there were lots of unnecessary stunt injuries. It was madness. So I can see how the more complicated stunt work they want to do on a beach scene. There's going to be some ship fighting, deck fighting, because otherwise they wouldn't have bothered to build the ships. But I can see why, for safety reasons, it makes sense in the storyverse. Let's shift this to a landing scene and focus on when they're attacking Spice Town. That's going to be a big part of the battle, too, and I think it's a good idea. But between these shots on Lanthwin Beach, at the start and end of June, sandwiched in between, we saw a couple of other scenes related to it in mid-June, filmed at Bumaris, of Alan in a rowboat being rowed about by other stuntmen, rowing around in the bay, apparently looking for other survivors amid the wreckage. A very brief geography overview here. I've made a whole video on this is the map of all the filming locations in Wales, so we can usually tell, oh, this must be that location, this is where they filmed that other thing last season. Short version only as it applies to specifically these spy photos. They're mostly filming in national parks in northwestern Wales, in County Gwynedd, and just north of that, County Anglesey. Anglesey is technically a large island, but it's only separated from the mainland by a narrow inlet. There's just this narrow strait that has multiple bridges going over it, so people don't think of it as an island, but there's this narrow strait going through it. At the southern end of that strait, separating Anglesey from the rest of Wales, that's where Lanthwin Beach is. That's where the beaches of Driftmark and Dragonstone are. Dragonstone Castle is somewhere else. That's further down at Trevor Quarry, but this is the beaches. And that's where most of this was filmed, because that's where they have all the beach scenes. At the north end of the strait, also on the Anglesey side, is Bumaris, which is apparently their hub for when they actually need to take a prop boat out into the water. Because that's where their last scenes for Season 2 were filmed, for Corlys and Alan, when they're being rowed out in this rowboat skiff to a main war galleon. We saw that in spy photos of why is he in full armor in this skiff being rowed out. My assumption is simply that they have docks at Bumaris, and they don't really have docks at Lanthwin Beach, because it's a nature preserve. So if they ever need to film someone actually in a rowboat like Gendry or something, they do it from Bumaris, so that makes complete sense. That it's just nice to know why are they filming there, not somewhere else. Well, this is where we can get the boat rentals. So, okay. Mostly this video was just catch-up, though. An excuse to share spy photos. None of these are earth-shattering. We know the Battle of the Gullet is happening. It's just nice that we felt we were owed the Battle of the Gullet, and for people who were impatient, yes, this is coming. The battle that David Zaslav, not Ryan Condal, cheated us out of and messed up Season 2. But there's only so much spy photos can tell us, a lot of this is going to be CGI, or the stuff in the backlot, at least in studios, we can't see, and like interior shots on ships and character deaths that they're not going to be able to see with spy photos like that. But still, these are pretty decent spy photos after months of not having anything. Like, the one minor change is an aged-up Bela and aged-up Moondancer. It'd be weird if they didn't take part in the battle along with 6 other dragons. It doesn't really have that big of an impact, so I'm not worried about it. Looking ahead, I have 3 more report videos on all the June spy photos we got when they were filming in Wales, which actually do involve progressively more changes from the book, though I'm pretty much okay with all of them. I think you would be too. That if it was anything really, really drastic, I would have raced this out, but it's still interesting. I want to hear what you have to say. I mean, nothing as drastic as, wait a minute, Daemon is doing stuff in the Reach, and we're going, well, it gives him more to do, and gives Daeron more screen time, that kind of thing. The other spy reports all revolve around the mainland, though, because they're all from in and around Dinnerwood Quarry, which is where they have this big exterior set for Harrenhal, and by extension, the Riverlands. A lot of Riverland scenes were filmed there in Season 2. So it's 3 other sets of spy photos related to specifically things that geographically happen in the Riverlands. Please like and subscribe to follow me for those other ones.